Hello and good morning, everybody. Happy World Otter Day. My name is Lexi. I am an educator here at the Stone Zoo, and I am here with Dale, the Otter's primary trainer, and we are so excited to be here with our otter kits coming out on exhibit for one of the very first times. As always, if you have any questions, please feel free to go ahead and put those in the chat, and we will try to answer those at the end. So just right off the bat, Dale, I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about what their first few days looked like and how we've kind of gotten to this point of them finally getting to go on exhibit.
Otters are very dependent on their moms for quite a long time. So when they were born, really, we didn't see much of them. We did have a camera, so we're always able to monitor their health. We were very hands-off, so we just watched from afar. Duncan has been a perfect mom. As soon as they got big enough, we were able to switch her away and start getting consistent weights, which is a way that we could really monitor their health without doing much to them. And they have just been absolutely perfect since they were born.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Dale. So we are currently looking at Duncan, who is hanging out with the 3 otter kits over by their door. We do have some construction going on here at the zoo today, so they might be a little nervous to go out by their pool, but we'll keep an eye on them. And of course, if they move, we will move with them so you can get the best look at them. So Duncan is, of course, a first-time mom. She actually is 4 years old. She turned 4 back on February 7th. And those babies were born on February 16th, so they are just over 3 months old now. And otters live around 8 to 9 years in the wild, and they can live up to 21 in human care. But across AZA accredited zoos, the median age expectancy is around 12 years for otters. So the otter kits made their exhibit debut yesterday. So Duncan was, like Dale said, so wonderful, trying to teach them how to come out on exhibit, let them know that it's safe for them to be out here. And she guided them down into the water where they got to swim around in their pool for a while. And I know that once they were done, they did get really tired and ended up going back inside for a little bit of a nap. So let's talk about what's been going on behind the scenes for them for the past 3 months that we have not been able to see our otter friends. So from what I've gathered from the keepers, and maybe Dale, you can speak to this a little bit, I've heard there's been lots of napping, lots of nursing, and within the past few weeks they've started to learn how to swim while being watched closely by Duncan. Have they been, how have they been swimming behind the scenes? What did that look like?
Well, basically, as soon as they started eating, we noticed them eating a little bit of meat and coming out and playing outside of their nest. They've been hitting every single milestone as soon as they're supposed to. They're using a common latrine all at the same time, which is a very otter thing to do. They started eating the meat, and as soon as they started eating the meat, they also started exploring their environment, and their first swim was actually in the water dish, where all 3 were trying to swim in a water dish that had about 2 inches of water and is about 5 inches wide, so that was quite comical. As soon as we saw that, we were able to put a small tub in, and they swam better than they were walking. They were still very wobbly when it came to walking, but when they swam, it was incredible. And it took a long time for the walking to get to a normal gait, but the swim was, basically where there's water, there's otter, honestly.
That's fantastic. Thank you. So we did see Duncan getting a little curious, maybe starting to be on the move, so we'll try to see if the otter kits end up moving over towards the water. So we have 1 male and 2 female kits. Oh, there they go. There might be some delicious ice and maybe a fish being thrown in the water, so we'll make our way over towards the water. The otter kits are weighing in at about 7 pounds right now, so they're still pretty tiny. And now let's talk a little bit about just otters in general having babies and what that's like for them. So this is really, really cool. So otters' breeding season is typically between around March and April, but they do something called delayed implantation, and this is where the fertilized otter egg starts developing, but then stops for around 7 to 10 months until the embryo is then triggered into implanting into the uterine wall, and then they're pregnant for around 9 to 12 months. And otter kits are typically born between January and May, so it's a pretty big span of time, right at the beginning of the year. And otter moms will give birth to somewhere between 1 and 5 kits. And when they're born with their eyes shut, and they are toothless, but they are fully furred, which I think is really cool. And then they will typically stay with their mom for around 1 year, but when they're born kind of at the beginning of the year and could leave as soon as early fall. Dale, I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about what it looked like with them kind of wandering around their behind-the-scenes area with their eyes shut and being totally toothless. What was that like?
Well, at that point, they weren't really wandering. They were just in the nest box or wherever Duncan would put them, because she would move them. They really don't explore until their eyes start opening. The interesting thing is with the cameras, we were able to see when the eyes were starting to open, and we have it all, documented. And they start with just opening their eyes a little bit, and they have a membrane on their eyes, which they also have the membrane where they're swimming. The thing about otters is they don't see very well, because they have to see almost equally as well above water as below. So they can see, they see pretty well, but it's not their best sense. But watching them, as soon as they started getting out of that nest box, it was pretty adorable. We've actually already started official training with them as soon as they were eating meat. And we can now we don't have to go in with them, because they will go onto a scale platform. And we've now been weighing them since the end of April is when we were starting to do that. So they're already in official training, which is going to be great for them in upcoming medicals and just watching their health when it comes to, their weight and every other aspect.
Fantastic. So when you say that they're being trained for medical reasons, what kind of things are you training them to do to participate in?
Well, like I said, the very first thing is weight.
Of course.
Going on that scale, which they have that mastered. The next thing we'll do is basically just start target training, so we can get them to go into an up position. And this is going to give us a better understanding. We can look at their bellies, we can look at their feet, we can look at their faces if they have any injuries. Having 3 pups, they are going to play rough. If you have multiple kids, you would totally understand this. So you are definitely going to have little boo-boos here and there. And we'll be able to call them over. They'll come over, and we'll be able to look at them. And they'll be feeling safe inside their holding. And they'll feel comfortable enough to come over and let us look at it. Other things that we'll be training them to do is to go into a tube, which they're already actually starting to do. And eventually we'll be able to give them vaccines by calling them in, and we can just give them a quick hand injection, and then they can be on their way. So it's the same type of vaccines that you would give your dog or cat. So if you think about, you bring your dog to the vet, and you do have to hold your dog for them to get the shots. We don't even have to hold our animals. They're trained to come over, they present their hips, we give them a quick shot, and then we give them a big reward, and it's really no big deal to them. So those are big things that we really focus on to train.
Fantastic. Thank you, Dale.
You're welcome.
And of course, like I mentioned right at the beginning, it is World Otter Day. So let's talk about where you can find otters. So we are looking at our North American river otters. So you can find them all across the United States, up into Canada as well, of course, in North America, as their name says. And you can find them in freshwater rivers, streams, lakes, coastal marshes, and you can find them even here in Massachusetts. But what I find really, really fascinating, and I'll talk about a way that you can help the North American otter population, is otters avoid polluted waters and polluted areas. So So if you are lucky enough to see a North American river otter in the wild, you know that that water is really, really clean. And if you are in an area where you live near a lake or a stream or something of that sort, and you're not seeing any otters, the water might be dirty. So this would be a really great opportunity to maybe form a cleanup crew that you can hopefully care for that area, clean it up a little bit, and then maybe be able to one day welcome otters into that space. So I'm going to move on over to Katie, who is behind the camera. Do we have any questions?
We have a bunch of questions and a bunch of comments. So
Fantastic.
The comments range from OMG, so cute, so cute, so cute.
I couldn't agree more.
So our first question is from Anne, who asked, what are their names?
That is a wonderful question, and they do not have names yet. I believe there was an auction going up for the naming rights for those otters. So as soon as we've got those names, we will keep you posted.
And Anne did ask another question. When were they born, and who are and what are the parents' names?
Fantastic. Dale, I'm going to send this one over to you.
They were born on February 16th. The mom is Duncan, and the dad is Sushi.
And let's see if we have any other questions that have come in. Will the zoo keep the young ones, or will they go to another zoo when they're old enough?
Great question. I'm going to send this one to Dale again.
We will not keep these guys as long as we're keeping Duncan, and Duncan's going to be in a breeding situation. The pups will all have to go before we introduce a new male. Sadly, Sushi did pass away before the pups were born. He was, I believe he was 14 or 15, which is 16 actually. So that's really old, especially for a male otter. So we will be getting a new mate for Duncan at some point, whether it's later this year or early next year. It really depends on how long the species coordinator wants these pups to be here. So it's really important to remember, as much as we want the pups to be here, we also want the pups to go into a breeding situation of their own. And if we want Duncan to breed again, these pups have to have found some of their own homes.
Awesome.
And I have one last question, because I think a lot of folks watching are going to want to come to the zoo and see the otters in person. So, Lexi, can you just talk a little bit more about maybe why you might not see the otters right away if you do come to the zoo?
Absolutely. So if you are unfamiliar with the Stone Zoo, if you want to come over and try to see if you can find them, you can work your way through the zoo, and eventually you will see the Animal Discovery Center, and the otter exhibit is just across from there. Their exhibit also is right behind the white-cheeked gibbon exhibit, so if that's helpful for you when you're coming to the zoo. But if you come here, you find the exhibit, and you're still unable to find those otters, so you might be able to look all around the exhibit. There are several places where they could be. Of course, the place where we want to see them is swimming, like you see right now. You're so lucky to be seeing. But there are several other locations kind of around their exhibit that could be a little shady. They might be taking a nap somewhere. Or they also have their door open to their behind-the-scenes area. And, of course, these otters have been in their behind-the-scenes area for about 3 months now. So that is home, and that is really, really comfortable and safe for them. So, like we mentioned with the construction earlier, if they're feeling a little uneasy about it, a little confused, they might just go into that behind-the-scenes area where they can feel nice and safe. So, if you come and you can't quite spot them, maybe do a lap of the zoo, come back around, and see if you can spot them again.
All right, I think we have time for one last question. This
Let's
is
do
from
it.
Ashley, who asked, how old is Duncan, and how many pups is the average litter size?
Awesome question. So Duncan just turned 4 years old back on February 7th. And so Duncan had 3 kits in her litter, and they can have anywhere from 1 to 5 kits in any given litter. Great question.
All right, I think we're just about out of time.
Fantastic. Well, thank you all so much for tuning in for this morning's Zoo to You. Of course, happy World Otter Day. Thank you so much, Dale, for answering all of our questions. And definitely come by and see otters very, very soon. Bye.
Bye.